Today I'm going to give you a really simple explanation for how to find the slope of a perpendicular line, just using this piece of paper. The kind of question that you would need to use this for goes something like this. Find the equation of the line perpendicular to y equals 2/3 x plus 1, passing through the point -2, 1. Now perpendicular just means at 90 degrees. And the first thing we have to do to answer this question is work out the slope of the line that we're looking for, the line that's perpendicular to this one. So if you are still a bit confused about slope, or like what rise over run means, then go back to my previous video on slope. So here's our original line, y equals 2/3 x plus 1. You can see it's got a rise of 2, a run of 3, and the y-intercept of 1. So what I'm going to do to get a perpendicular line is just take this piece of paper and rotate it 90 degrees. So now we've got a line that's perpendicular to the original one. It's not in the right location because you can see that it doesn't pass through the point -2, 1, but it does have the right slope. So if we can work out the slope of this line, then that'll give us the slope that we want. So you might like to pause the video here and see if you can figure out the slope of this new line. So remember that originally it was 2 and 3. So now we've got a run of 2 and a rise of -3 because it's going down 3. So the slope is just rise over run, -3 over 2. That'll be the slope that we want. So now that we know the slope of the line, we can start writing the equation. We still need to work out the y-intercept though, so if you don't know how to do that, then go back to my previous video on y-intercepts. I'm just going to use my favorite method, and the reason that it is my favorite is that you can usually do most of it just in your head in one line. So I would start by writing out this, and then we just need to have like plus something or minus something here that's going to make these coordinates satisfy the equation. So I'll plug in x equals -2 into there. So you've got -3 on 2 times -2, which makes +3. And then we're going to think, what do I need to add or subtract from that to make y equal to 1? Well, 3 minus 2 is 1, so if I put -2 there, then the equation will be correct for that point. If that was a bit confusing, then just go back to my previous video where I go over several different methods. So that's the answer, that's the equation of the line perpendicular to that passes through that point. So let's take a closer look at what we just did so that we don't have to play around with pieces of paper every time we want to solve a question like this. So the original slope was 2 over 3, and then we found the slope of the line perpendicular to that one was -3 over 2. So what it looks like we've done is made it negative and flipped the fraction upside down. And you'll often see this rule written as m2 equals -1 over m1. And I know that some students are a bit confused about how doing 1 over a fraction flips the fraction upside down. So let me just explain how that works. If you've got -1 on 2/3, what you can do is multiply top and bottom of that fraction by 3. And then that'll turn it into -3 over 2. And that's also called taking the reciprocal. That just means flipping the fraction upside down. So if m1 is a fraction like 7 over 4, then the slope of the line perpendicular to that one will be negative reciprocal, so -4 over 7. If m1 is a whole number, like let's say it's a slope of 2, then you can just stick it into that formula and say that the slope of the perpendicular line is -1 over 2. And if m1 is negative, then what's going to happen is that the negative here will cancel with the negative in m1, and you're going to get a positive slope. So if you've got something like m1 equals -4 over 9, then m2 will be positive 9 over 4, because that negative is going to cancel with that negative. Now let's go through an example so you can check that you're applying this correctly. So you might like to pause the video here and give this question a go, and then come back and check your answer. So we've got this slope of -5, which means our slope of the perpendicular line is going to be negative reciprocal, so 1 over 5. And now we've got to work out the y-intercept. So I would do it by writing y equals 1 on 5x, and then trying to work out what y-intercept we need here. So I would do that by plugging in x equals 10, which would make this bit equal to 2, and then think, what do I have to add or subtract from that to make negative 3? And that would be subtracting 5, because 2 minus 5 makes negative 3. So that would be the answer. If you found it a bit difficult to find the y-intercept, then go back to my previous video on how to do that. Now, where a lot of students run into trouble is if the equation of the original line is written a bit weirdly. So remember, a straight line is usually written as y equals mx plus c, but it could be written something like that. So you'd have to kind of rearrange this in order to work out what m is. So you might like to pause the video here and see if you can figure out what is m for this equation. So what you can do is change the order of this, turn it into negative x onto plus 1, and then this is the same thing as negative 1 on 2 times x. So that means that this is our slope here. So if we were working out the slope of the line perpendicular to that one, we would do negative reciprocal, which would give you positive 2, would be the slope of the perpendicular line. Another area where students sometimes run into trouble is when the original line is written in general form. So you might like to pause the video here and see if you can work out what the slope of that line is. Now, what I would do is try to solve this equation for y. So put it into the form y equals mx plus c, because then you can read off the slope from that. So let's move the 6y over to the other side. So add 6y to both sides. And then you can divide by 6 to solve for y. So we got to divide each part by 6. So 2 divided by 6 is a third, and then 3 divided by 6 is a half. So this is our slope, and that's our y-intercept. And then if you're working out the slope of the line perpendicular to that one, it would be the negative reciprocal of that, so negative 3. There is another way to work out the equation of the line perpendicular to that one, if you're allowed to put it in general form, because what you can do is just swap those two coefficients, so turn it into 6x and 2y, and change the sign of this. So if it's minus, make it plus; if it's plus, make it minus. And then there would be some constant as well, which you could work out from a point that it passes through. If you are still confused about perpendicular lines, or if you want to request a maths video on any other topic, then leave me a comment below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, then give this video a thumbs up and subscribe.